everyone, my name is Christine Sobrimonte. So our topic for today was all about reproduction among non-flowering plants. But before that, let me read to you the objectives. First is describe how spore and cone-bearing plants reproduce, and distinguish reproduction and spore-bearing plants and cone-bearing plants. Plants need to reproduce to maintain the existence of the species on Earth. Flowering plants reproduce asexually and sexually, as you have already learned. Not all plants bear flowers. Mosses, ferns, and pine trees are a group of plants that do not bear flowers for reproduction. Non-flowering plants are divided into two main groups: those that reproduce with dust-like particles called spores and those use seeds to reproduce. Spore-bearing plants are simple or primitive plants, for example, mosses and ferns. These plants release thousands of tiny spores which are spread by wind or water. All spore-bearing plants need plenty of moisture to reproduce and grow, so most live in damp or shady areas.
A pleasant morning to each and everyone. My name is Salma S. Bansinan from B.Ed 1A. Spore-bearing plants like mosses reproduce through tiny reproductive cells called spores. These spores develop into the new plants.
Ferns are plants requiring water for fertilization, with sperm swimming to eggs and forming a sporophyte. Ferns are seedless vascular plants, were the first type of vascular plants and are generally considered to be simpler than vascular plants that make seeds. Ferns can range from very short, unimpressive house plants to larger, full-grown trees. Ferns are often used in landscaping and decoration but also occur naturally in a variety of environments. So this is the fern life cycle. A spore is released into the environment and forms a haploid gametophyte. The gametophyte contains asexual organs including the anteradium and the archegonium, which produce sperms and eggs respectively. In the presence of water, the sperm swims to the egg and fertilizes it. The fertilized egg forms a zygote, which forms a diploid sporophyte. The sporophyte is able to absorb water and nutrients through the vascular tissue and grow into a mature fern, which produces more spores. How do ferns reproduce? So, ferns reproduce sexually by releasing spores which a haploid gametophyte. The gametophyte contains male structures called the anteradium and the archegonium, which produce sperms and eggs. In the presence of water, the sperm swims to the egg to fertilize, which produces a diploid sporophyte. It is also undergo the two generation of plants to complete the life cycle, which is referred to as an alternative generation. Alternative generation refers to life cycle that alternate between haploid and diploid individuals. This is common in algae and terrestrial plants. Haploid cells contain one set of chromosomes in N, and diploid cells have two sets of chromosomes, the 2N. Here is the picture.
Life cycle of moss. Mosses are non-vascular plants that play a crucial role in ecosystem. They reproduce through spores, not seeds. Their life cycle involves alternation of generations, with a haploid gametophyte and diploid sporophyte phase. Cone-bearing plants, such as pine trees, have seeds inside cones. The cones protect and release seeds, which then grow into new plants. Life cycle of pine tree. First, seed formation. Female cones produce seeds containing fertilized eggs. Second, pollination. Pollen from male cones fertilize egg in female cones. Third, seed germination. Seed fail, germinate, and develop into seedlings. Fourth, mature tree. Seeding grows into mature pine trees and the cycle repeats. In summary, mosses use spores for reproduction while pine trees rely on seed within cones. Both have distinct life cycle involving alternating generation.
Good day learners, this is Easy Engineering. Previously, we've discussed about the flowering plants and we have also found out that animals can also plant. But did you know that not all plants grow flowers? They are called the non-flowering plants. Now let's discover amazing things about them. Non-flowering plants. Is it a bit dull to hear? They don't have that attractiveness of the flowers. They don't bear those delicious fruits either. So what would make them useful to us? Well, basically, non-flowering plants are plants that do not use flowers to reproduce. Therefore, you cannot see some flowers in its structure. Some trees are non-flowering plants. The leaves of the trees have a very important job because they give us much of the oxygen we need to have to breathe and live. Trees also provide shade for us and give the birds and squirrels a place to call home. And they hold the ground so that when flood comes, they don't just get washed away. There are many kinds of non-flowering plants, but it's obvious that they don't have flowers or fruits. So how come there are still so many of them? Now let's classify this into two main groups of non-flowering plants. First group are those plants that use spores to reproduce. Spores are cells that are very small. In fact, they are microscopic. That means they're so small that you cannot see them with your eyes. These spores, when released, travel through the air and water and go away from the plant. When these spores land in certain places, they can form new cells and eventually a new plant will grow. Plants with spores usually only have a single cell and they grow in huge numbers because spores are super light that they just float in the air and can travel far where they continue to reproduce. An example of a spore-bearing plant is the fern. Ferns produce spore casings on the underside of their leaves. These look like brown spots. At some point, the casings dry out and the spores are released into the air. Ferns live in damp areas and most of them do not have real roots or leaves. Instead, their leaves are called fronds. Mosses are another plant that grows from spores. These are plants that are soft and most of the time spongy, that naturally grow a few inches tall only. They stick to rocks and soil by using what is called rhizoid or short growth. The next group are non-flowering plants that use seeds to reproduce. This group is called gymnosperms. How can they have seeds if they don't have fruits? Well, first, the word gymnosperm means naked seeds because the seeds are not covered, unlike the seeds in flowering plants. These seeds fly wildly in the air and help other non-flowering plants to form. One of them are called the conifers. Conifers are plants that have seeds found inside the cones. The word conifer means bearing cones. Most of these conifers are the cypress trees, fir seeds, pine trees, and more. Like the flowering plants, the cones have gender. Some of the cones are female while others are male, and the male cones are the ones that release the pollen. The winged insects or animals then carry the pollen, and if the pollen lands on a female cone, then the cone will make seeds. The cone is very protective of the seeds, and it protects them by growing hard scales. Now the seeds that are inside of the cone are called winged seeds. This means that when the seeds are released, they will fly through the air until they reach the ground, and they will germinate, which means beginning to grow. And that's it. Non-flowering plants may not be as colorful as a plant with flowers, or they may not give you anything good to eat, but they do a lot to help the earth become a better place to live. There are other things you can explore about the non-flowering plants, but that is all for now. I hope you learned something today. Have a nice day.